Bitcoin education, big topic, right? Where would we be if we weren't able to learn about Bitcoin, and if we couldn't address the generation that are coming up behind us about the importance of money? So this is what this panel is here today. They're all working on incredible projects around the world. So let's get them up on stage, and in order, I'll go from the far end. So Rogzy, he's up first. And then some Italian dude, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. Giacomo. Giacomo Zucco, ladies and gentlemen. We have Dusan up next. And John, come join the stage. Thank you. All right, guys, I guess we should, we've only got like 23 minutes to get through this, so let's do a quick fire round of who you are, where your project is based, and what you're working on. And then we'll get into further questions.
Test? Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Rogzy. I founded Découvre Bitcoin. We do education around the world, mostly through two big projects. The Sovereign University, which is an online e-learning platform from beginners to experts, and in El Salvador, where we try to set up lightning nodes in every school as pedagogical tools to create experience for the students and a network for them to use.
So I'm an Italian guy with some name, Giacomo or something. Giacomo Zucco. I was based in Italy, now I'm based in Switzerland, here. And my main goal is to switch from consultancy, which I did in Bitcoin for the last years, into education. Not just starting something, but taking credit for things that other people are doing. And the strategy to do that, you will actually see an example on the main stage later. If you come at 11:50, you will see what's my strategy. Basically, they work, and I take the credit. It's great. You should try it.
Thank you, Giacomo. I'm Dusan. I'm a Bitcoin educator from Slovakia. We have a Bitcoin Academy in Honduras and also Bitcoin mining operation in Paraguay, and that helps us to sustain the circular economy in Honduras, in Roatan. We onboarded more than 60 businesses, educating premier Bitcoin diplomas there in Honduras, and trying to alleviate Central America.
Hey, my name is John. I'm the founder of Mi Primer Bitcoin, or My First Bitcoin. We are a Bitcoin education nonprofit based in El Salvador. We like to say that the focus is El Salvador, the mission is the world. So we've taught about 30,000 students in El Salvador since we began 2 years ago. We also have open sourced our materials, and they're being used around the world, such as Honduras, Africa, throughout Latin America and Asia. And we are very excited for everything that's coming next year and the year after that with great educators around the world.
You didn't mention UK there. Well, yeah, round of applause, sorry.
UK.
Yeah, but just to give everybody an update on the UK, the Bitcoin Policy Institute in the UK are going to be using the Mi Primer Bitcoin course, and they're even going for accreditation so they can get into schools as well. So this is a global project, and it is gaining steam. And anybody can, anybody here, if they want to start a project, they can get in touch with any of these guys and start, you know, plugging into this educational push. I'm going to ask you guys, why? Why did you feel the need to start an educational project? What changed in you? Because a lot of us here weren't even in teaching professions before. So what changed, and why are you here?
Yeah, I could take that. So for me, I'm from New York, and I was there when COVID started. And that was a real wake-up call. Not that it was a new thing, but it was a wake-up call that we have forgotten how to think for ourselves. And Bitcoin education is a tool that allows the individual to take control of their own life. And that has never been more important than today. So that's our motivation. That's my motivation.
Dusan?
My story started when I was 8, and my dad was pushing me to solve math problems in kitchen, and I was crying because I couldn't solve them. But he really made me passionate for mathematics, and then I started to do a lot of math competitions. And when I came to university, I started teaching mathematics, physics, and English from 6 years old all the way to university student. So seeing the the raise of confidence with kids that were getting the worst grades, and suddenly with like a little change of approach and a different approach to teaching, they came to become more self-confident. They started to solve math problems in their free time. There was very magical moments for me, and I decided like this is what I want to do in my life. And when I stumbled upon Bitcoin and learned about that and the beauty the Bitcoin brings, I was like, okay, I want to be a Bitcoin educator. So this set me up on a journey of I want to do as much education as I can, and then trying to figure out a way how to sustain it, how to scale it up, and how to help just a little bit.
For me, it was basically a business model problem at the beginning. When I quit my fiat job in 2013 to do Bitcoin stuff, I co-founded some Bitcoin startups, a wallet, a mining, a small mining farm. But all this stuff was losing money heavily, because like, how do you monetize a good Bitcoin wallet? You cannot have intellectual property, you cannot steal users' data. So I realized after 1 year that what I was doing was consulting banks, explaining Bitcoin to get some money for me, and then wasting this money on startups that could not make any money. So I said, let's make this a business model. So I started to do basically information arbitrage. I was helping the builders, giving them money, and receiving knowledge from the builders, educating myself first, and then educating the fiat world. But then after a few years, educating bankers became very, very, very boring, and I realized that educating actual people is, well, not the bankers are not actual people in a human sense, but it's, you know what I mean, right? It's
questionable.
Just funnier, and it's more satisfying for me. So let's move to retail.
Yeah, for me, it came from a lack of good French educator. So I started the YouTube channel just with French, and I was like, okay. So I come back from Canada, where there is a lot of English content. Andreas is amazing. There's so much thing, and I come to France, and the only big YouTube channel is a scammer. And I was like, okay. So if my family, if all of my country will need to be on board, maybe we should like fix that. So that was like the motivation to become educator. At the beginning, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do more into finance, wallet, and all of that. And from there, I realized that the French community and the North African community like really needed someone to push privacy, Lightning, and more Bitcoin stuff, and not just like chilling shitcoins. And from there, their feedbacks motivated me to keep going, even though, like you said, it's really hard to monetize on education. And if you never give up, and if you keep pushing one video every week, a podcast every week, at some point in your own country, you can become like a good Bitcoin educator and really empower your own community. So I guess that's mostly the motivation.
Okay, and Dusan, I want to come to you at this point, because with Amity Age, if you want to explain to people about educating the next wave of educators, which I think is an incredibly important topic.
So I realized that in Czech Republic, anybody from Czech Republic here? One, excellent. So in Czech Republic, there is a guy who created a huge YouTube channel about Bitcoin education, or about Bitcoin. And he almost grew bigger than bunch of the global channels. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And on his live streams, he's just drinking beer. He's like really natural. He's really with integrity and authentic. And I realized like this is amazing, because I believe like a lot of people in Czech Republic wouldn't learn about Bitcoin if it wouldn't be this amazing content in local language with local cultural touch, because they wouldn't listen to somebody who's so far away, maybe culturally different. So since I was thinking how to orange peel 100 million people by 2030, that's kind of the goal that I have, and it's exactly by a block height of 1,200,000, which is roughly 2030, we will see. I was like, okay, how to do that? And I realized, okay, I don't want to do it alone, and it would be boring to do it alone and impossible. So let's help other Bitcoin educators get better in the soft skills, have better tools for education, somehow network them together so they can create their own educational projects. So I realized helping the new generation of Bitcoin educators to get better and to really go around the world and in their communities, educate their local communities, and become these micro-educators. This is what is driving me, and I feel a huge passion. So this will be currently, this is working on right now in MTH, and this will be like our flagship project from now on. So it's just, in the beginnings, we're just starting that, and if you have any ideas how to help out, reach out to me, I would be super glad.
And what about for people that want to apply and come, and because I think you're missing the carrot on the stick there.
Yeah, so
a month in Roatan, is that right?
It will be. We'll see how many days. So it will have two parts. One will be online part, like a lot of content, maybe 2, 3, 4 hours of how to become better educator. And from that, the most motivated ones, or like the ones with the most passion for education, we would like to invite to Roatan, to Caribbean island where we have the academy, to spend probably about 10 days to really like on-site education with Bitcoin educators from around the world in an amazing place, going to schools and helping in schools with workshops. So check out Roatan, it's a beautiful place. We are building circular economy there, and that will be the place where the physical Educators Academy will happen.
And there is another project going on for January and February in Madeira called Sovereign Engineering. If you go to sovereignengineering.io and apply, you could be the lucky one to spend 2 months in Madeira with Pablo Fernandez and Durgigi hacking away in a government building that has, yeah, government, I said that word, but the government in Madeira are right behind this project. And then that leads up to the Free Madeira project of the Bitcoin Atlantis conference as well. So these initiatives are going on. Does anybody here want to build on this before I open up to questions?
So yeah, one of the things that we will try to do is that we need both sides of the coin, basically. We need a local execution, because just sitting in your house in New York, for example, and trying to do global education is not gonna cut it. You have to be there, you have to be physically in the place, you have to blend in with the local culture, local language, like Rogzy said. At the same time, some level of global coordination, not reinventing the wheel, reusing best practices is efficient. So what we will try to do, and I will explain later, is basically try to have your cake and eat it too, in a way. So having people in place doing local education, but also connect people at the global level as most efficiently as possible.
Perfect. And if you do have any questions, just raise your hand at any point. And there's one down at the front. I know this kid. He's, could you run down? Yeah, sorry, thanks. Look at that. Giacomo is running the mic towards you. 18 years of age, I love it.
Is it on?
Yep.
My question is about, how should I start? How can you as Bitcoiners guarantee that we as Bitcoiners can educate people simply and in the most easiest way, like how people, how this all works? Because I have it like with my friends all the time. They're like, oh, Bitcoin is a scam, and you're a Bitcoiner, dude, you're like crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. I just love Bitcoin, and I love the mathematics behind it. So how can you guarantee that people will listen to us? And that's my question.
And again, just to point out, this young man is 18. This is how bullish I am about Bitcoin when we have questions like this in the front row. Go ahead, Rogzy?
Yeah, so I said that they will only start learning when they are ready to accept the fact that a change is needed in society, and then from there they will start studying. Then the question is like what type of materials they want. Do they want book, podcast, conversation one-on-one, private course? Do they want to go to a hub and discuss with the local community? Are they more autonomous? And that's why we need like a lot of builders building very specific, like different way of education, different tools to educate. So then when that person is finally ready to learn more because you did your job of range billing with maybe materials we can provide, then he has like a safe spot to keep learning as much as he wants. So I'd say you shouldn't force it to people, because the more you force, the more backlash you will have, and they will believe it's a scam or a pyramid or a sect. But when they are ready to learn, they need to have like all the best material accessible in an easy way to learn based on their preference. If it's Australian economics, it is. If it's really the tech, it's going to be the tech. And we need to funnel that education in a construct way so they don't waste time. Because the issue is that learning Bitcoin, like how many people here have studied Bitcoin for more than 500 hours? See, people don't have 500 hours. So they need to get it in either a couple of hours, and if they're dedicated 20 hours, and then only a small minority of the distribution curve will study for 500 hours. And you need that in mind if you want to scale education to 1 billion people or 100 million. If that answers the question?
Yeah, I think the point about not forcing is very important. A few years ago, I was actually trying active proselytism, but then you realize that people are not ready, and they have to feel the need. They need to feel the why before they get the how. If you're building Noah's Ark because there is a rain coming, like here in Lugano, you don't have to scream at people, come on board. I mean, when it starts raining, people will come. You just have to leave the gate open. So they say we are like a cult. Yes, but there are different kinds of cult. There is a cult that's trying to buzz people in their home, and the cult is just staying there building apocalypse-ready solutions for people to come. And I think we must be the second kind of cult.
And I also want to add that there is a term called microeducator. And I believe like all of us are microeducators for our own communities, families, friends. We don't need to be on stages. We don't need to speak to microphones, but we can be there at a family dinner. And when the question comes, we can be there to answer. And I call it like a lighthouse, orange lighthouse, because the lighthouses are also built not to bring ships, and they are not attracting them and shouting what they do there. They're just there. When the ship comes, they are just support, showing that here is a place that you should avoid, otherwise you're going to sink. So you can be a microeducator, you can be a lighthouse, an orange lighthouse for your family, and not shouting to them, as Giacomo and Rogzy said, but just be there when the time comes for them. I will be having at 2 p.m. A masterclass on how to handle objections, which is something that every time comes up when you're speaking to somebody about Bitcoin. And there is a way how you can help the other person to really kind of put the arms down and not be in defense, and then the information can come better to them. So it will be, I don't know in which stage, maybe this one. It's called Educate Bitcoin Educator, so you can join.
John, could you give us an update of what's going on in El Salvador and the movement that you've seen there with Mi Primer?
Yeah, so I'm biased. I live in El Salvador. But I think El Salvador is the front line of the next war, right? And it's a war for our minds. It's a war for who controls our lives. And Bitcoin education is the tool that is going to allow us to win that. And in El Salvador, when I mentioned that 30,000 student number, that's in person in El Salvador. That's not included online. That's not included in other countries. And most excitingly, again, this is that government word, but the Ministry of Education has a project now in El Salvador. It's a pilot program right now. They've based off of some work that we've done because it's open source. So they took that material and they modified a few things, but basically they took that material and they have a pilot program with 150 public school teachers. Literally today, literally right now, this is happening. And that pilot program is going to lead to 300 schools at the start of next year, which will lead to 6,000 schools, which is every school in the country. So that is something that we are really excited about to educate a nation. That's never happened before, right? And we can't do it alone. We need to do it with each other here. We need to do it with all of you there. And sometimes we need to do it with the government.
Or the G word.
I mean, that's not the idea is independent, impartial, community-led education will change the world. Period. Right? There's no. That's it. As long as that's happening, then that's all that matters. And again, personally, I think El Salvador is at the forefront of this. Lugano is also a great place for this, but I think El Salvador.
You say that in every conference you go.
Yeah.
Just a quick point about the G word that he said. It's true. I mean, I am an anarcho-capitalist. I think that nation states are a social cancer, one of the worst tragedy of the modern world. But when we talk about bottom-up adoption, there are two kinds of bottom-up. There is the bottom-up, like the subject of a government against government oppression, which is the most important one. It's the basic one. But there's also some kind of derivative bottom-up dynamic, which is the last governments that are cut out of all the payment rails. They are cut out of inflation, cantillon tax. So El Salvador is a government. But within the nation states of the earth, it's also a case of the oppressed and not really the oppressor. They are the ones suffering inflation without being able to spend in the printed money. They are the ones who are suffering financial censorship. So in a way, there is a bottom-up, top-down dynamic even within nation states. I will not condone the existence of a nation state. I think it's a tragedy. But there is some kind of dynamic which is bottom-up in this sense as well. And we should not be indifferent to that.
Dusan, I remember when you first came onto the podcast, you were telling me the project you were putting together to get the Bitcoin Rabbi's book, Bitcoin Money, into as many primary schools as possible in Slovak, right?
Yeah.
How did that? Could you give us an update on how that went?
So I believe for primary schools, this is one of the best material you can find. Bitcoin Rabbi is right now, he's off from the internet, so it's really hard to get to him. He has like 8 kids right now. I was like, okay, man, like you have a ton of work, so I understand Bitcoin is not the priority. But a book called Bitcoin Money Book, it has already a lot of translations. It's an amazing book that you can go to teachers, go to schools and teach with that. So we crowdfunded like 20,000 euros at the time, donated already like 4,000 books to schools. And we have in the program about 60 teachers that went through the whole how to work with the book, and they implement it in the schools. I don't have the current numbers because right now my mind is in Honduras, so it's very hard to focus on both. But there are some teachers that I know that they are still working with the classes and Orange Pill them this way.
For Ticino people here in the room or following, there is also an Italian version of that book, which is curated by Mir, and you can ask her eventually if where to buy the Italian version. It's also very cool. I agree, it's a very good book.
So just leveraging on the tools that are already out there, and I know you wrote kind of the coursework for teachers to go page by page to be able to deliver that in the classroom, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And something right now we want to translate Bitcoin Diploma into Slovak language. It already has a couple of translations in world languages, so I would like that to be kind of like the next step for the teachers, like more comprehensive, more for high schools and maybe university students as well. So that's kind of like the Bitcoin Money Book and Mi Primer Bitcoin Diploma. I think you can handle the whole school with that.
Closing remarks, guys. We've got 2.5 minutes left. What do you want to see, Rogzy, for next year for Bitcoin education?
I think what will come alive pretty soon is probably my focus. But for El Salvador and for high school, I think we need both of the coins. So basically what Mi Primer Bitcoin, what you're doing is amazing as a large amount of people to be taught. So we need to teach everyone the basics of Bitcoin. What I try to focus more in El Salvador would be to teach the higher level students that want really technical expertise. And for example, the same way in El Salvador, they have like some computer room with the best they can do. We are setting up like a lightning node in the computer room. So now they have like a new tool to play along, open their channel, connect with another school, create like a partnership between them through channels. So the same way like the books is definitely necessary, it's a great material. Other small tools like that should be implemented in the educational system, in the curriculum to provide like I said, the right materials for them to understand because what is mining? We can explain mining for 20 hours, but the easiest way to explain to a kid is put a nerd miner in the classroom and start mining. It's never going to get a block, but you get the idea. Those small tools need to be developed, and we need to lower the cost so that it's more easy to be spread out. I think that is something that is currently kind of missing as like is easy package. And basically for El Salvador, the end goal is to create what I call the micro banking. So like we have micro leasing, lending that exists today. Well, can we do micro banking? So can we go to any community in the world and give them a package, cost $1,000? It's a node, it's a small ATM, it's a hardware wallet, it's a book. And with that, they can basically bootstrap their own bank in their community and be completely independent. And then if we connect those communities all running their own micro banking system, then you can have like a distributed banking Bitcoin system around the world at a really cheap price with a lot of resources for the people hardcore in it, the community, managing it. And so I think the long-term goal for me is to try to get that more working. El Salvador is the MVP. The hardware is being tested right now in Isolante and in other high school over there. But then if we can make that cost efficient, we can bootstrap micro banking community around the world to every community. I think that's probably the most bullish for the next 3-4 years. It needs to be built. Everything is open source. I call them Bitcoin adoption standard. You can just like go and check them, read the white papers, improve on it, create to try it with different materials. We're using Start9 in El Salvador. Maybe it's not a good idea. Old Mac are cheaper, but then it's more difficult to scale. So it's up to us, the Bitcoin community, as an educator, to find the right model. But yeah, if I had to close, because I know time is out, I think that's why I'm bullish.
Giacomo, what do you want to see in the next year for Bitcoin education?
I will try to be a little bit controversial, but I want to see probably reduction in quantity and increasing in quality. In 2013, when I started, the problem was that there was nothing out there, so we had to create a lot of stuff. Now the problem is the opposite. We have a lot of noise. We really have to filter down. We have to create consistency, to create some kind of, well, filtering, funneling. We need more quality. So I think that it's very good that what everybody is doing is using the books that are already there, using this, promoting the software tutorials that are already there, or improving on them. But we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We really have to funnel down into high quality signal.
Dusan?
I agree with Giacomo on the materials and the quality, although I would like to see more quantity of educators and people not be afraid to put themselves out, put their ideas out, and really go to school, ask the director to really make a little workshop in the local school and really bring Bitcoin education to a local level, in-person level, and give educators courage, spark, and good quality materials to really be on their journey and just to do that.
John?
So, hey, I would like to see in the next year or 2 or 3 with Bitcoin education, I want you to be more involved. Everyone here, right? This isn't just a few people who are at the front of the classroom. It's all of us in our own lives who could do it. So Bitcoin teaches us to take control of our own lives, and that includes, you know, your neighbors, your families, educating them, giving them the right tools for them to start their own journey. So I would like to see the tools, the small number of really quality tools, but dispersed among everyone.
That's your call to action, guys. Thank you. Huge round of applause for the panel.